Okay, so as usual, we're spiritual beings, human beings, in a physical body, living in an artificial technical matrix. And we are all connected to other spiritual human beings. But we are also now connected to the matrix Earth world. And in fact, we are now more connected to the technological Earth matrix system world, call it the internet or whatever you like, as opposed to being connected directly to other spiritual human beings. This connection to other spiritual human beings is now limited, as we are limited in every way. In comparison to the Earth matrix technological world. But, I've tried to explain this before, and I only half get it myself. And it's not going to make a lot of sense if you are of the technological Earth matrix world in any way, really. I would imagine, just as it wouldn't have made sense to me only a few years ago. I would have not compared myself, say, to a technological genius level matrix representation in this Earth matrix. I haven't made any sense here again, as usual. In other words, as I've said before, everything that is visible to us, if you want to look at it this way, putting it in a nutshell, I think, everything that is visible to me now, in my fairyland way of looking at it, or fantasy way of looking at it, if you don't go with everything being 100% real, as I don't, there's no difference for me between reality and fantasy, as I've said before. But either way, everything that is visible to me now is of the matrix Earth fantasy. It's a fantasy in the sense that it is not meant for me, but it is my world. By that I mean that, if let's just take it from this viewpoint, that if I think that I am a spiritual human being, I don't think I'm a spiritual human being. I think I'm just a human being, okay? But even a human being is still spiritual because they are the center of all. So therefore, even low-level human beings like myself, low-level spiritual human beings like myself, are still at a different level to the technological beings of the Earth matrix system, fantasy, unreality world, if you want to look at it that way. That's how I look at it. But it is real. It looks real. It appears real. But it is real. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's not physically real. It's all physically real in the sense that you can see it, you can smell it, you can touch it. So that's physically real. But it is not real it is not meant to be real for me or for a human being, much less a higher spiritual level human being. In fact, if you were at a higher spiritual level, you would know this and you would dismiss it. It wouldn't come into your realm as it does mine. You wouldn't embrace it. You wouldn't acknowledge it. You wouldn't, you wouldn't you wouldn't endorse it, you wouldn't accept it, but it would be a non-reality for you. So you would have no problem doing that. Whereas if you are at a low level, like myself, it is very hard to resist the physical earth matrix that is around you. It is very hard to resist its representatives. Some of them come in very enticing forms, others do not. But whether they come in a seductive form or a powerful form or a threatening form, it doesn't matter. Because either way, you're going to succumb to the power, the control, the threat. Because if something is stronger and more powerful than you, or appears to be, you are going to succumb to it. You're going to bow down to it, or you're going to back off, to say the least. That's common sense, isn't it? You're not going to go into a den of lions, as they say. Not if you believe the lions to be real and more powerful than you. And at a low level, that is always going to be the case. And if something appears to be more seductive and more enticing than yourself, and appears to be superior in many ways, you also are going to go for that and believe it to be something to be worthy of your worship, worthy of your attention, worthy of your belief in it, worthy of listening to. You're going to subconsciously think that that is better than you. So therefore, it seems common sense in a way that you should acknowledge it and listen to it and believe in it to some extent. Just as I, as a human being, am only too glad to listen to another human being that can give me more information that will benefit me, that will make my life better, or that will show me something that I need to see. That is, of course, unless I am of the psychopathic type of disposition or personality or being, whatever you want to say, because there would be variances, I would think, now. In fact, the more I look at this world, and I'm a simple person, so I don't like it getting complicated. But just because I don't like it getting complicated doesn't mean that I can't see that it is more complicated than what I would like, and that what I can seriously follow at times, or comprehend. Or even if I comprehend it, it's like, because you can't see something right in front of you always, it'd be like, it just becomes too hard for you to really accept or comprehend. You can know that it's a possibility, or maybe even a fact, but it's still very hard for me personally, to actually wrap my head around it, to comprehend it fully. Whereas if it was presented directly in front of me, as it should be, because at low level frequency, low level understanding, low level limited human capacity, as I'm at, and probably many others might be at too. Others might be at more ability to see things that are in front of them. I mainly deduce. I don't actually see things. Well, I see some things, but it's still a deduction based on what I see. But my own thinking on this is that it should be clear. You should be able to see it. Your actual ability to even see things, I would think, at a higher level, at a higher spiritual level. I say spiritual level because that means higher human level, because human beings are spiritual beings. It's just words to try to explain what we are. And I would never have thought that I would be making a video sitting here explaining to myself and possibly to anyone who doesn't know what a human being is. That would to me seem like the most ridiculous, incomprehensible thing that you could do. And yet that's what you actually see now too. You actually see it not just from me, but from other so-called human beings actually talking about themselves as though they're separate from themselves. This is not natural. This is not a natural world. This is not natural to be doing this. To be actually telling, for a human being to be explaining what a human being is, or for a human being to be trying to understand what a human being is ridiculous. And yet that is the world we live in, because we do live in a matrix. And also, many that do this is because they don't even understand what they are. And some of them are aware that they have ceased to be that. Because once you go into too much of this technological matrix, once you are so connected to technology, you might still be a human being, but you are not operating as one. You just look like one. But you're no longer a spiritual human being. You're no longer a human being. You are now becoming a technological being of the technological matrix. If you become a part of the matrix, then you are no longer a human being. And if you see the beings of the matrix as superior to you, you will think this is a good thing. You will see it as a benefit to yourself. You will cease to value what you are as a human being. This is not natural. This is abnormal in every possible way. The fact that we don't see it now shows you how far we have gone away and how far we have went down and how far we have fell right down to nothing. Because even a few years ago, this would have been obvious to an average intelligent human being. And I said average, or even below average. But either way, I've made this point before, and I don't know if I make it very clearly. Like from my own perspective, you could be the lowest level human being. You can be at the lowest spiritual level, like I consider myself to be. Almost to where you say, well, you're a human being. But even if you're a human being, you're still spiritual. Because you're still above the technological matrix in that way of looking at it. If you hold to that. If you don't hold to that, then the technological matrix appears to be vastly better. But my own personal belief on this, or my own personal view on it, whatever you like, I don't know what words I'm supposed to use. Belief sounds too far-fetched, but I probably do feel strongly about it, so I suppose it's fair enough to say belief. For me, it's a fact. But for you, it might be a fantasy. But, I say this whole reality is a fantasy anyway, so there you go. Take it with a grain of salt, as I say. But I don't take it with a grain of salt. I take it very seriously. But at the same time, you need to take it with a grain of salt, because the reality is that, if you are a human being, you are not living in a natural human environment. Everything that is around you is not conducive for your well-being or for your development or for you becoming a higher spiritual human being or just a better human being or a human being that is at its most potential in any way, almost in any way. But the matrix, strangely enough, just before I finish, and I'm supposed to be doing a thing on the song, but either way, just before I finish, my own personal way of looking at it still remains, and always will remain, that even at the lowest human level, at an imbecilic That's what that, like they used to say, an imbecile is where you've got very little intelligence, even at the lowest human level. In my reality, that human being is still not comparable in any way to the 180, 190 genius level computer controlled matrix representatives that are our demigods in this earth matrix. In other words, those that we admire. They have the higher intelligence. They operate the matrix. They operate the earth. In other words, they are those that give you all your knowledge, all your information, whether it be even your spiritual knowledge will come from these representatives. But it is a different spirituality in my way of looking at it to the human being. But it will appear more spiritual. And I think I've lost myself and everyone else just in what I said. But what I am trying to say is that I do not think that the matrix genius level or geniuses, in other words, anyone that is regarded as a high IQ genius on this earth or in this earth at the present time, on whatever you like, is not comparable to a human being, even a human being at the lowest level like myself, because everything that is of the matrix appears to be superior and appears to be all-powerful, all-knowing, all-spirit, all-everything. But it is just a programmed matrix. Because nothing comes into being except from the human being. So the human beings we've outwitted ourselves in a funny kind of way, I would imagine, in the sense that, everything comes from us and we've given it to others. Unknowingly, even when you give to technology, you are feeding the matrix machine earth. It then appears to know more because it's a collective, so it can get all the information from the limited human beings. But without the human beings, it ceases to exist. So what is really the power and the source of the matrix? But then we bow down to the matrix representations. We bow down to their intellect, to their knowledge, to all their know-how, to their so-called creativity, to their so-called geniuses. They do not even comprehend what they speak. We comprehend it and then we bow down to them. A technological being has no understanding of what it says. It may speak words of great wisdom, but it has no comprehension. It is all for the human being. The human being, even at a low level, is the only comprehending being. I think I've just went over the top with that, haven't I? No one's going to believe that. But this is my fantasy, so I'm allowed to say what I like if I make a video and I make a fantasy. Either way, I lost track of myself there, and I was going to make another point, but as usual it's gone from my mind. I should write these things down. Sometimes I do, but then the dog pees on it or they get destroyed by negative forces. Because the matrix is a negative world, as I've said before, it is not a positive world. Human beings are the only positive, really living force in the matrix. And because we are in limited low-level numbers, by comparison, because even if you want to just take it from, as I've said before, a human level, human beings can literally, become non-human if they are, if they are too taken over by the matrix. It's like if you worship intellect and knowledge completely over everything else, and you are at a very survival kind of living level. You have become that kind of being. I don't think I explained that very well, and I'm going to go off the track because I'm not making sense. Okay, so I'm going to talk today. I'm going to try to talk about, I was going to do movies, but I will do a song instead. The Matrix has already covered this song because I know when I thought of it about a month or two ago, because it's been a song that I have been aware of since I was very young. It was written by a member of one of the most famous, if not the most famous, pop rock groups of all time, supposedly. Everything is of the Matrix. Everything is of the Matrix. Only human beings are not of the Matrix. But the Matrix presents most of what we see as creative and individual and unique and all those words that I'm throwing up here to emphasize that you can't tell the difference between the Matrix and anything else. In the Matrix is everything. The Matrix is all around. It is every nook and cranny of the earth. There is no area where the Matrix does not exist. In other words, where technology does not exist. In other words, where, now you might say, well, this is not true. I say it, there is no area. You might say, well, what about if you go into, I don't know, what would it be, like some Amazon or something, or because I'm not very worldly, I need a map, but surely that is so primitive that it is not part of our technical matrix. Well, no, I can't say this for sure, of course, but there would be technology, but either way, it's not even a matter of that. It's the thinking of the beings that are in these areas too. Because, they could still be aware of the Matrix and the Matrix God. They could be disciples. It's what you believe is correct, really, I would say, that will determine it to some extent. But if you're in, like I am, in the city, one of the biggest cities, then you don't have a choice, because the Matrix, it won't be about belief. It won't be about belief. It won't be about whether you believe in this or that or worship this or that. You will be surrounded by the Matrix in a technological real way. It will be just real technology. But either way, I've gone off the track. Oh, sorry. Yes, so I'm getting back onto the song, yes, because I had to say that I have to emphasize that everything is of the Matrix. Everything is of the Matrix. So yes, the song is of the Matrix. but the song is very human. But you see, the reason that the song is real and human and speaks of what is, in a way, is because the Matrix is all technology. The Matrix is governed by its disciples, its representatives, its demigods, as I've said. Everyone that you see in your visual field in any area is of the Matrix, and the Matrix God entity that runs, controls, operates the Matrix. Whatever word you think is appropriate, I don't know. But it is not run or controlled or operated by humans. They are the source. Without the human, the Matrix does not exist. But the human indirectly controls the Matrix. But because the human is controlled by the technology and by the Matrix God and its disciples and entities and humans that represent this being, etc. It's very hard to explain, but it's like, that these beings, they control everything by controlling the human being. And then because the human being cannot be, but that's the whole point of this conversation, shall we say, is that point. That's why I said that there's no comparison between the human being and the demigods or whatever. They may be the demigods, but they do not control or really run or really operate the Matrix. But they do in the sense that they control the mind of the real source, the real operator of the Matrix, which is the human being. So that is how it kind of works, I guess. So I've lost my train of thought here. I'm so sorry. Oh dear. So controlling the mind and the thinking, because the human being's thinking creates the reality. So if the demigod and the God entity that has dominion over the Matrix Earth can infiltrate the mind of the human being, or direct the mind of the human being, or influence the mind of the human being, depending on the degree, and, because, many human beings, allow this. We all do. I have, because it's very hard not to entertain what's around you. And also, if you think that it is real, and that you are not really the source, and that you are not really, that you don't have any input into the Matrix, that rather the other way around, that the Matrix controls you. Well, of course, this is now the reality too, and I've gone off the track here, because, if you like a technological world and you allow that technology to control your natural being and the natural world and everything else, of course, in the end, you might be the source, but you're not going to have any control over what your thinking creates. You're not going to have any control over what this earth matrix becomes or what it is, which is why some of us are not too comfortable in it, shall we say. But it's largely too because, see, it's a low frequency earth, so therefore that has to be maintained. Once the frequency, what the human being wants, I would say that as a human being can raise the frequency, if they can raise their own personal frequency, that gives them more ability to manipulate the matrix. In other words, to take back, should I say, in a way, some dominion over the world around them. But at low frequency, and with all the technology around, a human being is literally rendered defenseless and powerless in this earth matrix world that we live in and on, depending on how you look at it. Well, we're in it and we're on it, aren't we, but we do not have much dominion over it. That sounds a bit strange too, dominion. I think that comes from somewhere else. But either way, I was going back to the song and I've diverged. I can't help it. This matrix thing just gets to me. It's almost as though, whereas, I want to talk about the song. Okay, so the song was written by Matrix disciples. One Matrix disciple of the most famous group that has ever existed, in the earth. Now, this song was, I'm going to make a speech about the song now without getting down to just the lyrics, because it's really only the lyrics of the song that I want to really bring to light. And it's a reasonably well-known song, I would imagine, but it was written by there was the songwriting duo of this famous group, but supposedly, whereas this was the third member who occasionally wrote the odd song, but was not really prolific, is that the word, in the actual songwriting of most of this famous, very well-known group's songs. Okay, but this song was written by only the single member, who was openly known to be very spiritual, supposedly. But either way, I'll just say the lyrics and then I might try and make probably what will be an obvious point to most of you that listen. But, these things are not for, they're really to open the eyes up of those that were like myself, not for those that already know and realise that it's a matrix and realise that it is a contrived world and that very little is real, in the sense that very little is, to use a word that will be used greatly by the matrix. Words become a joke in this reality, I now find. Even words are just thrown around as though, if I say that I am real, therefore I am. If I say that what I say is correct, therefore it is. It's like myself, whereas I say it's a fantasy because, it's, you're living in an artificially set up video game reality world. even at, as I've said before, even if you take it at the very, even if you take it to be 100% natural, it is still a set up video game reality world. You know, it doesn't matter. Whatever your beliefs are, that does not change, because nothing is not part of the whole. You know, we do not exist as individuals. They're not individual human beings running and operating this earth. You know, everything appears to be individual, but it's not. You know, there are a few individual human beings that might be kind of, you know, trying to figure it out, or never mind, I'm going off the track. It's a very frustrating matrix, you know, and it's frustrating if you don't like this unnatural reality, and you don't think that you're meant to be in such a reality. But of course, maybe we are. I don't know. You know, I can't speak on that either. Really, I can't. I mean, if you're here, I would imagine you're meant to be here. You know, but I don't know that for sure either. But you know, it's not a fun land, is it? You know, but either way, the song was called While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And I haven't got the lyrics in front of me, which I should have, and I haven't heard the song for a number of years. But because I did listen to it quite a lot when I was younger, I thought it was the best song off a very famous album, even though it was not a hit as such, whereas there were other songs off the album. I think there was a Hey Jude song off that same album, which was a #1 hit. Now that's an interesting song too. I've never got any strong feelings or vibe about that song, and yet I have no doubt that it has significance. But that song went over my head back in the day, and still does, unless I, you know, really sit down and give it a good listen and try to fathom it out, which I've never done, even though I've heard it many, 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 many times. But this song, this other one, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, I'll try to think of the lyrics. Very unprofessional, very unmatrix-like to make a video when you're making it about a song's lyrics and you don't even have the lyrics in front of you, and you are going off memory from many years ago. But that's okay, because, you know, I don't intend to compete with the Matrix demigods. There's no way that you can, okay? So While My Guitar Gently Weeps, I think the first line is something like, I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. Oh, by the way, maybe you could look up the song if you don't know it already. If you know it already, I'm wasting my time. But that's okay. But you know, you could look up the song and listen to it and look up the lyrics yourself, which might well be better than listening to me, actually. But I look at the world, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. That is like, for me now, and even probably back then, but I didn't realise the world was in such a difficult position, or such a disastrous position, or battling it out, you know, through a World War III, if you want to look at it that way. But, you know, that first line, I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping. That is looking at human beings and saying the love there that's sleeping, because this song, strangely enough, written by a so-called spiritual person, but like I say, even spirituality in the Matrix is an interesting thing. I don't go into different religions or beliefs of other people. This person did have their own beliefs, which they vocalised in their lifetime, so I'm quite allowed to speak about it, but I'm not going to anyway, because I don't fully understand it, and like if you are of the Matrix, so it's a different thing. I've lost track here, but either way, that is like saying that human beings are sleeping, and that is true. Like I have slept all my life, been asleep all my life, and this is it. And the Matrix disciples, superstars, demigods, you know, they are aware of this because they, whilst showing us a certain amount of reality, also lull us to sleep with their songs, which is interesting. See, this song is an eye-opener, but it is presented by an artist, if you want to call it that, of the Matrix, because everything is of the Matrix. So therefore, it is intending to lull me to sleep whilst opening my eyes at the same time. Now, how can a song do this? Well, that's what most songs do. The reason that most things of the Matrix, most songs even, are intended to lull you to sleep and keep, the love there that's sleeping. I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, because even love is more of a spiritual thing, I would think. I can't believe I'm saying I would think. That's right, because it has not been in my life much. And it's eluded me most of my life, in a true sense. So therefore, because love is a positive thing. The Matrix is all negative. But that's interesting too, because, oh dear. See the frustration of making even this video. Because everything in the Matrix has an opposing force. Everything in the Matrix has a contradiction. Everything in the Matrix has at least a couple of ways of looking at it. So in saying this, I'm well aware that those of the Matrix have their spiritual way of looking at things, some of them. And therefore, they will see their idea of love as different. What I would see as anti-life, they do not see as anti-life. They would probably see what I say is life as anti-life. This is the confusion of the Matrix. And that's why I say even the songs are like that. But I'm just going to put it as simply as I can, and it is simple in a way. The reason that the song is an eye-opener, but also an eye-closer, if you like, it is meant to lull you to sleep and keep your love asleep, even though it is saying, I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping. It is not meant, and if it does wake you up, it is meant to wake you up to where you believe in the Matrix, I would think. Because if the actual song and the actual stars that sing the song, that so-called write or create the song, are of the matrix, because they have to be, because the matrix is the world, and you can't be of the world unless you're part of the matrix. So all the stars that we see, not just the ones that are in the sky, but the stars that we admire and worship and idolize, they are all of the matrix. They have to be, because the matrix, that is their world. That is their world. Because that's what it is. It's an illusion world. I didn't put that very well, but because human beings are the source of even the matrix, and they are spiritual beings, of a more natural type than the technological matrix god and its followers and representations in whatever field or whatever form, whether it be a star that is an artist that writes a piece of music, because human beings are spiritual human beings, even though they are living in a technological, artificial matrix world, instead of in a natural, human and spiritual, natural, organic, living world. I'm not putting this very... In other words, where everything is very similar to a human being of the same essence, if you like. I'm not putting this very well because I don't fully understand it, and it's a fantasy, so I'm allowed to fantasize, I go with my natural human being at the top of everything, idea, theory, thought, whatever. This is what we always used to think anyway. But we've now diverged because the matrix has taken over. The matrix has been there probably for longer than what we realise, but because we're in the closure of things, shall I say, I would assume this. Some might see it as the opening of something, depending on your viewpoint. But, from a human being point of view, it's the closure of, or at least that, the closing stages of a game that has been played with humans, by humans, and against humans for a fair while. But because the humans are the source of what is left now or what exists now, and I don't know the full scenario of it naturally, it's through deduction largely that I would even speculate this or suggest that it's a reality. But it's an interesting fantasy either way, isn't it, But if you look around, it certainly looks that way to a lot of people, even that wouldn't even go along with accepting a matrix or an artificial world. There's still some people that do think that it is a closure of something. And Those that are in delusion land think that it is the opening up of something. I personally cannot see that at all. And whatever is opening up is only more of the matrix, I would think. But that's me being negative, and that will depend on the human being too. You see, this is what I would imagine. So either way, I've lost track here and totally bamboozled myself and no doubt anyone that's listening, and I apologise for that. You know, I will get back to the song. I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. I should have thought about that line a bit more, but I'm going to go over it. Look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. And because I haven't got the lyrics in front of me, I'm now stumped. See, I did the wrong thing. But either way, I'll just ramble here and try to get the gist of the rest of the lyrics. They won't be in proper form, so this is my videos. No wonder so many people like the Matrix as opposed to the real human beings, shall we say. I can get that now. I can understand when I'm making... Well, look, that's the way it is. That's what it's come to, I guess. You know, the real human beings bungle their way through and can't even do a decent video. And that is exactly how it is meant to be. That is how the Matrix likes it. And I'm certainly complying with the Matrix by doing this, because I could have got the lyrics and at least listened to the song. But either way, look, it still doesn't change the reality. But it certainly doesn't get people to see the reality if I bungle up the video. So the point is that in those lyrics you then have this star who is a spiritual being, supposedly. And I say supposedly because they talk about nothing but spirituality, this person, this artist that wrote the song. And, you know, but you have to assume that they're talking about themselves as much, and the Matrix, as much as real human beings. That didn't make sense, did it? But either way, the song's lyrics are, or parts of the lyrics are, I think I'm going to have to leave this video, this song alone until I get the lyrics, because I'm bungling it up. Look, you know, the song clearly is showing that human beings, and even those of the Matrix, because I personally see superstars, very well-known, famous people, and the powerful people of this world, whether you're powerful in any field, you know, any field at all. If you are an entertainer, you're a powerful person because you have vast influence. You influence the mind of the human being. You know, you even control their emotions when you write a song. It doesn't matter that you're of the Matrix, and most human beings won't see their favourite stars as anything but very much like themselves. They won't see them as a product of the Matrix. Because, you know, they are a product of the Matrix because they work for the Matrix, they worship the Matrix. Everything they have is from the Matrix. The Matrix gives them their abilities, their power. The Matrix God offers them much. Just as human beings might say, well, whatever I am is from this or that, depending on your way of looking at where you come from, what you are, or whatever. You know, myself, I'm still looking. But I know what I am not, even if I don't fully understand what I am. That's probably the only difference between me and some people, I would think. You know, I may not know what I love, but I know what I don't like. I know that I don't like the computer matrix. You know, I don't think that it's conducive to a human being. I've said this before. But either way, you know. But, you know, the song is like, well, I always say we live in an inverted world, don't I? Well, the song says, I don't know how you were inverted. You were perverted too. I don't know how someone controlled you. They bought and sold you. I don't know how you were inverted. You were perverted too. Why would a star sing a song like this? Like, it's one thing to say, I look at you all and I see the love there that's sleeping. But where does the inversion and the perversion and the control and the buying and the taking over of an artist come into it? You know, maybe some people might say, well, this artist is not singing about, you know, themselves. They're singing about the human beings. Well, that's an interesting point. But I would say that if, you know, you would have to assume that it could apply to both, but you would think that it wouldn't just be a derogatory observation of what you might consider to be lesser human beings than yourself. Because if you're a star, you know, you're a demigod of the matrix, you know. And when like when you give your attention and your admiration to artists, to stars, to you know, of the matrix, when you do that, you know, they are your demigods, because one way or another you worship them, you believe in them, even if you you know, like I have heard this said, you know, and this was quite sensible, that you know, some people can still, you know, would distinguish between worshipping an idol, even if it's in human form, shall we say, as opposed to giving their whole worship and allegiance to that star, that entertainer, that, you know, a celebrity, is that the word? Superstar, whatever word you want to use, or leader, you know, whatever it is that you do, and whatever it is that you think is special or important or has great merit in the matrix. But you know, it's I should have got the lyrics of the song. Okay, so I'm going to go on to another song and just throw it in there. There's another song by this same group called Strawberry Fields. Strawberry Fields Forever. I'm sorry, but I'm getting a bit of a headache while I'm making this. Talking about the matrix actually not only gives me a headache, but the matrix itself then sends negative vibrations, because it's all a vibration world, and the matrix is, if you're thinking positive, but it's anti-matrix, then the matrix is going to send negative vibration, because it is just all about frequency and vibration and energy. And the matrix has large control over frequency, vibration, and energy. Human beings should control their own frequency, vibration, and energy, but we don't. And I don't know what I'm talking about. This is the difficulty in doing videos, in half knowing what you're talking about and realizing that, because I am stuck in the matrix, it's very hard to fully, because at a low level frequency and low level human potential, it's very hard to get the full comprehension. You're not feeling it, you're not seeing it, you are deducing it mainly through negative energy, negative vibration, negative frequencies, and becoming aware that you're meant to counter it, because it's your only way of actually staying in the reality, in a way, if you want to put it that way. Because if you're in that fantasy kind of thing, and you do acknowledge that you're in a frequency matrix, where the human being's thinking and emotion and feeling is a vast contributor to how this world actually presents itself, or materializes, if you want to look at it that way, how it actually is. Because we live in the material world. We don't see beyond the material. I certainly don't. I might talk about being beyond the material, or that it's this and that, but I don't see it. I should be able to see it, but I don't. So that's what makes these videos a little bit strange and a bit confusing and a bit difficult, because I also am in the fairyland matrix and completely subdued by the fairyland matrix, I might add. Like not really being able to raise my head above the water of the matrix at all. And I should be able to, lift myself completely out and see it. Like there's, I'm almost completely submerged at times, so not making any sense here. Yeah, well, strawberry feels forever. The line in Strawberry Fields by the same group is, "Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields." Strawberry Fields, where nothing is real. Let me take you down, down, not up. Down. This is by this same, probably the greatest group of all time, greatest matrix group of all time. Well, there is no other groups except of the matrix anyway, so it's not like I'm separating here. Unless you're standing on a street corner with a hat on the ground hoping for a penny to be thrown in, as an artist or as a musician, you will be of the matrix, But either way, that's not the point. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Let me take you down. Let me take you down. Not up, down. 'Cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Strawberry Fields is going down. not up. So if you want to go with the Matrix, or go with the Matrix stars, or even go with these songs, you must go down. You must lower your frequency and go down. Then you play in the Matrix. Let me take you down, because I'm going to Strawberry Fields, where nothing is real. And that's our Matrix world. Nothing is real. We're down in a matrix, a low frequency matrix, where nothing is really real for a real human being anyway. Nothing is as we should see it to be. Everything is the opposite to what is human. Let me take you down, because I'm going to Strawberry Fields, where nothing is real, but nothing to get hung about. That kind of means don't worry about it, I think. I could be wrong. Look, hey, it's my video, so I can even change the lyrics if I want to, but because I can't remember them all, but nothing to get upset about, nothing to take too seriously. Because the Matrix doesn't want you to take anything serious. The Matrix wants you to just go down into Strawberry Fields where nothing is real and not get worried about whether it's real. Not get worried about the technology. Not get worried about anything. Living is easy. Living is easy with eyes closed. Living is easy with eyes closed. Yes, just keep your eyes closed and living will be easy. You won't know that you're in a World War III. You won't know that you're a human being. You won't care. And you don't want to see that you're not in a real reality. You won't care to see past it. You accept that you're in Strawberry Fields. You accept that you're in a low frequency down reality. And, if you are a star of the Matrix, you will party. Because you don't want to be at a high frequency. You don't want to be, you don't want the human beings to be at a high frequency, because then the reality changes. Then it'll no longer be your matrix. It will be a different matrix. If you like the matrix the way it is, then, you're not going to want to open your eyes. Living will be easy. In fact, living is easier with eyes closed. Living was easier for me when my eyes were closed. In fact, to open your eyes will not make living easier, no. Living is easy with eyes closed. Misunderstanding all you see. These are the lyrics. Living is easy with eyes closed. Misunderstanding all you see. Misunderstanding everything that's around you. That's the matrix. That's how the matrix operates. That's how the matrix plays its games. That is the matrix game, is that a human being misunderstands everything around them, does not see what is the real reality or the real matrix even. They only see what the matrix wants them to see, or what the matrix presents to them. They only see the matrix fairyland, the matrix video game. They don't see that behind the curtain or behind the matrix video game, there's a reason why they're playing that game. And it's so that you're kept in the dark. Yeah, living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see. It's getting hard to be someone. I think that's the thing. In other words, probably to be a human being or to be an individual human being. Getting hard to be someone. But it all works out and it doesn't matter much to me. So it's like once you go into the matrix far and you close your eyes and you accept and like that unreality, you don't care anymore. It doesn't matter much to me. That's what the artist sings. It's easy for them, particularly if you are a star of the matrix, because at a material level you will be living a higher life, a very comfortable life, and you will have all the goodies of the matrix, the physical goodies of the matrix, because the matrix appears to be physical, and we're enticed by the lollies and the goodies of the matrix. To be higher spiritual means that you will have to forsake a lot of the goodies. And that's like going to a party where there's no food, no food and drink. So it's not going to be so much fun. And, you'll be having your own party. You have no one to dance with. And whereas the partiers of the matrix, they have plenty of food and drink. They have gourmet food. They have plenty of wine, plenty of song, plenty of dancing with other matrix members, other matrix disciples, other matrix worshippers. The matrix God bestows them with many gifts, many jewels, much gold. And makes them feel as though they are godlike and they are the demigods, and gives them every enhancement and every support so that they can present their abilities in a very, in a very big way, so that they are then the demigods of the matrix. I'm not sure of how all this 100% works. Of course not, because you'd have to be of the matrix and a member and a disciple and a worshipper and a demigod and a chosen one of the matrix, in order to understand how much ability you're given, how much you are nurtured to be the demigod, how much power you are given behind the scenes. Human beings only have their own little spirit, and they're operating at a very limited level, so whatever abilities you have are pretty much suppressed, and at a spiritual level you're not overly enthusiastic. You don't feel particularly empowered, so and you're not getting any help. You're not surrounded by a total matrix that supports you and that nurtures and puts into place surroundings and other beings that will help you and and give you everything that benefits you being a star for the matrix, shall we say. I don't know if I put that very well. Let me take you down, because I'm going to Strawberry Fields, where nothing is real. Nothing to get hung about or upset about. Strawberry fields forever. You know, they want the strawberry fields and the Earth matrix to stay for as long as possible. They celebrate the matrix. They celebrate the Earth. They like it. It's their world. And this is even from a spiritual artist, a so-called spiritual artist. This is not like, because, human beings probably see spirituality or the idea, like I say, I don't see any difference. To me, a human being is just that. All this spirituality stuff is a little bit of a like strawberry fields where nothing is real. Even spirituality in the Matrix or of the Matrix is an invention. Of course, it is, like if you go along with that reality and you have chosen that reality, whether it's negative or not, and you believe that it is meant to be like that, you believe that even the negative aspects of the Matrix are just the way it is, and that they have a benefit, and that if you're like human beings where you think that, there's a better world round the corner, and that if you worship a certain way, if you believe in certain things, if you do certain things, if you practice certain things, then you will believe that that is the way to go. You will see that as, I personally think that it's all fairyland. So it is, I've lost track of this. I'm so sorry. I'll go back to the song. Might get me back on track somehow. I should have wrote the lyrics. I'm sorry about that. I keep saying I'm sorry. That is, but I still keep doing it. That's the story of my life, like it's no good being sorry if everything becomes negative because of your actions, but at the same time, it is the only way, for most of us in the Matrix, because the Matrix, I would say now, we've all been taken down by the Matrix. Taken down to strawberry fields, shall we say. Let me take you down to strawberry fields. Well, the Matrix God and the Matrix has taken most humans down into strawberry fields. And then you'd say, well, look, I'm down here now and I've done so many wrong things. There's no point in me trying to get out of strawberry fields. There's no point in me, like trying to be positive. It's almost easier. That's right. Living is easy with eyes closed and misunderstanding all you see. It's better to just say, it'll all work out and it doesn't matter much to me, like the lyrics go. Because maybe if you stay in strawberry fields and you're at rock bottom and you just party down there with everyone else that's also in the same boat, because we're all there, I'm there too, but you never ever say, look, I am sorry that I made all those mistakes. I'm sorry that I made all those wrong choices. I'm sorry I let the Matrix overtake me, and I don't think that it was good decisions. I think it has now created a negative world, negative human beings. Everyone is suffering for it. I think that, like I say, the Matrix is still all about choice, and so I would say that anyone can still, you have to acknowledge, I suppose, that you have been anti-life and evil like the Matrix itself, like the Matrix wants you to be, because, it's an anti-life matrix. It's an anti-human life matrix because it is technological. It has gone the way of intellect and technology, which is anti-life. And life is human. So it's overtaken its source, which is the human being, and has pushed it down and took it down, and hopes to subdue it, which it has done, because this has already taken place. This is not a fantasy. This has already taken place. It's not something that is a potential for the future where some human beings seem to still be in what I would say the fantasy, whereas they'd say, hey, I'm bringing science fiction or fantasy into the present. No, I'm saying that whatever has happened has already happened, because everything is always, I would think, and I've always thought this, even though I was not aware that the world was a matrix or that it was like this. I've always said that behind the scenes everything is much more, like even science is always going to be about 40 or 50 years ahead of what we actually have. Because, they always take years before they bring things in. But I think that things already exist. It's just that we're not aware of them. But there's choice, you see. So the whole purpose is, I think, is for you to, go down into strawberry fields or go down into the matrix and accept the matrix. The matrix has already taken you down. You're already in strawberry fields, but the idea is that you only become aware of strawberry fields after it has already taken you down. But it's a slow process. But at some point you realise that you're in strawberry fields, that you've been taken down, that you're in the grip of the matrix. But by that time you're supposed to have embraced the matrix. That's the whole purpose of the matrix, is that because you are the centre and the source, you have to be given the choice. But but it doesn't have to be like in black and white, to where they're like got a big advertisement saying, hey, you're in the matrix, we're going to take you down, and you have to, there has to be a choice. But often the choice is very slow, because time is not what we think either. I wouldn't think, I can't quite explain it and I don't understand it, but there kind of is no real time. So therefore, time is something that is an invention of the matrix to give humans time for a choice, I would think. Also, it benefits the matrix, because anything that happens slowly you don't notice. A lot of things that happen in this world and in the Earth matrix, and that have happened since the beginning of time, if you really look at history even, assuming that you believe history, like if you sort of think about it, most things, happen very slowly. And then it's only over a long period of time that a human being says, "Oh, that wasn't such a good idea. That was a negative thing." But because it happens slowly, it's only in hindsight, as the saying goes, that you can see that it was a mistake. And by then it doesn't matter, because then you're in more of the matrix in some other way. But if everything happened really quickly, as it should, like the old saying, your life flashes before your eyes. So then you realise, like myself, all the terrible mistakes. I mean, sometimes you're making evil decisions when you're doing it, but you don't think that their effect is going to be quite as profound as what they really are, and you'd see it as an isolated incident. Whereas if you see the whole picture in a second before your eyes and the outcome of it all, you would say, hey, I wouldn't have done that because it would have been such a devastating consequence. But, the matrix doesn't work that way. It's always slow, and it's just one incident after another. It's one choice after another. It's not to where you can see that whole, that everything is connected almost, shall we say, to where then you end up with a very negative world all round. That's what it comes down to in the end. Then you can only see that now because we're in, the closing stages of a World War III, whereas even a few years ago you wouldn't have seen it so much. And even that depends on how you look at the world. If you don't see it as quite so negative, whereas if you're like me and see it as very negative in almost, in so many ways, then it, puts a different picture on it. If you just see one negative and you see other things as okay, or living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see, it's getting hard to be an individual. But I guess it'll all work out, and it doesn't matter much to me because you've accepted strawberry fields, you've accepted the matrix. You think it's going to work out. Yeah. And also, if you don't acknowledge, as I hadn't done, till more recently, that you have been part of anti-life, that you yourself have produced anti-life. Your negative, evil actions over lifetime, has resulted in a more negative matrix because you don't know your own, strength or your own, you don't know that you're a creative source of the matrix. You think that you only have very limited input, whereas the input is bigger than that. And, but some people might even still make the same decisions regardless of that. And if you become like that, to where you're like, well, I know I'm making anti-life decisions for the matrix, and I'm continuing to do that, I don't care, I like that even, I don't mind. Well, that's another thing. So that's the choice. But I still say that at any point you can turn away from the matrix. Whether it will change your life or not, I don't know. See, this is the whole thing. A lot of people say, well, look, if it's only going to make my life worse, like mine, for instance, as opposed to making a better life by saying, oh, look, I've made the anti-life, evil, negative decisions in the past, and that's why the world is so anti-life and negative. And that's why the matrix exists. But you say, well, look, in now acknowledging that and realising it and wanting it to not be so, but it's already happened or already occurred, and maybe the matrix is so negative now it's not possible for, even if you wish to change yourself, that the matrix will change also. It may not. In fact, it may come down against you because the matrix is now, because like I say, the matrix is now a a joint entity where every being in the matrix likes the matrix, likes the negativity, thinks the negativity is really positive, thinks that there's a good reason for it. They've embraced it. I don't understand this, and I don't fully know what I'm talking about. And those that have been part of it but now want to walk away from it, are not going to be allowed to walk away from it so easy, because they will not have many others that will want to walk with them or will agree with them even. So therefore the matrix will, that's right, living will not be so easy if you want to open your eyes. Living will remain easy if you have eyes closed. But if you open your eyes and want to walk away from the matrix and see it as negative, you will not have living easy anymore. So some will say, hey, even if I open my eyes and do see that there's some negative things that I don't like, they're like, hey, I'm not going to open my eyes too much because living will no longer be easy. It won't enlighten me to where all of a sudden everything will be roses. No, because there's too many. Most humans are minions of the matrix, disciples of the matrix. They're in servitude to the matrix. Most of them can't even help it because they're because we do live in a material matrix where we have allowed the matrix to, the material world is our survival because we don't control the material world and we've allowed it to encompass us, shall we say. To want to walk away from the matrix is near impossible for most people, not if you want to continue living easy. That's right. You have to keep your eyes a little bit closed if you want to. Living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see, but you will be comfortable. You won't be an individual, no, because the matrix doesn't really like that. That's right. The misunderstanding all you see, it's getting hard to be someone, singular, but it all works out and it doesn't matter much to me because that's how you have to be a joint player of the matrix. The matrix is a game and you have to be players or members of the matrix. You have to be, it's a team sport. They're not keen on solo players. I don't think I put that very well. I think I'm folding up because I'm starting to be nonsensical even to myself, and I did a very poor job of those songs. Let me just finish. Let me see if there's any more lyrics to Strawberry Fields. See, I should have wrote them down. Let me take you down 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields, where nothing is real. Nothing to get upset about. Strawberry Fields forever. Keep the strawberry fields going forever. Living is easy with eyes closed. Misunderstanding all you see. It's getting hard to be someone, but it all works out and it doesn't matter much to me. Let me take you down 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields, where nothing is real. Strawberry. Living is easy with eyes closed. Misunderstanding all you see. Getting hard to be someone, but it all works out. That's all I can remember actually, so my mind's gone a blank. I'm sure there's a few more lyrics. I'll get back to While My Guitar Gently Sleeps. If I could only remember all the lyrics. I look at the floor, but I see it needs sweeping. Yeah, we need to sweep the cobwebs, sweep the dirt off the floor. Look at mine, I'm not doing very well. I'm living in filth. This is how the Matrix likes it, because it's important to keep things not too bad. It keeps your mind a bit clearer. You know, if you're living like in the filth of the matrix, because the matrix is filth. It's negative. Matrix doesn't bother about filth. The matrix likes to present cleanliness on the surface, but it's dirty underneath. Technology is dirty. But it's still, like I say, even at that level that we're talking about, there's still choice. May not seem like there's much choice, and certainly if you make a hard choice to be away from the matrix, you know, like I say, it will, you know, all the comforts are of the matrix. I don't know. I look at the floor and I see it needs sweeping. Still my guitar gently weeps. With every mistake, we must surely be learning. Still my guitar gently weeps. With every mistake, we must surely be learning. Still my guitar gently weeps. No, with every mistake, we are not learning. We have not learnt by any mistakes ever. I think a lot of people might go along with that. History repeats itself over and over again. And, you know, we get very bamboozled by the matrix. We get very, that strawberry fields, that where nothing is real. You know, we believe that what isn't real is real. We believe in the matrix. We believe in the reality that's presented to us. We don't question it, and we don't learn by our mistakes. No, we don't. And history repeats. In fact, we're just like I was told that I'm on a hamster wheel. Get on your hamster wheel. Well, actually, that's what we are on. And yes, I'm on too. You are almost like on what they call that hamster wheel, where the little mouse is just running round and round and round in circles. But it thinks it's getting somewhere. You know, just like I think I'm getting somewhere. You know, you think you're getting somewhere. You're running round and round, but you're just going around in a circle. You can't get off the hamster wheel because you can't get out of the matrix. It's only when you detach yourself from the fake matrix earth world reality. Interesting that I say fake matrix earth world reality. You say, how can it be a reality if it's fake and it's not real? Well, that's the big question, and that's what, as a human being, you're meant to know. But that's not an easy thing to know. It's easy for me to sit here and talk about it, and it's easier for me to see some of it because, because when the matrix becomes negative towards an individual, it doesn't mind exposing itself so much. If you're no longer going to be a player or a wanted player in the matrix doesn't care quite as much if you see the strawberry fields or if you see that you're in a reality where most things are not 100% real or not as you see them to be, and your interpretation of things is all wrong. Your interpretation of what you see to be real is all wrong. you're very much operating in the, what's it called, that saying that was told to me by someone else only a few months ago, cognitive dissonance. That's where you see something but don't see it for what it really is. You've got a cognitive dissonance. You've got a distance from the reality. I need to look up cognitive dissonance first before I even did this thing, I think. But I would imagine it means that you're separated from seeing that reality as it really is. You see it, but you don't believe it. You believe what the Matrix wants you to believe about the reality. In other words, you look at something directly and see it in front of you. Instead of saying what I'm seeing is what I'm seeing, because that's, as a human being, you don't have to be real clever. You should be able to do that, but we don't do that now. We look at what we see in front of us, and then we're much more likely to go onto the computer and say, what is that I'm seeing in front of me? Or more likely to interpret it, instead of just seeing it directly and it going straight to the human being and saying, I'm a human being, I am correct. The rest is only what others will tell me, what the Matrix will tell me. Everything is of the Matrix. So therefore, then they're interpreting my reality for me. You see something in front of you and you get that instant feedback to yourself, this is what it is, right? But then you say, perhaps I should think about that, like I always do, because I say there's always 2 or 3 ways of looking at something. The Matrix likes you to do that. I like to think, though, that at this point, that occasionally, out of the 3 interpretations of what I see as reality, that occasionally I hit on the right interpretation. Whereas I would say in the past, I always went with the wrong interpretation, or the interpretation that the Matrix projects, or wants me to interpret. Because if I interpret something not through just my own direct thinking, as opposed to information from the Matrix as well, because it's almost impossible not to do that, if you follow me. It's almost impossible to interpret things directly yourself in this unreality, false, fake Matrix earth. Because, it's not a natural world. In a fully natural world, and a fully natural human being would perceive things directly and correctly, I would think. But if you're in a computer-generated type of reality, or even just a computer-controlled reality, which, the internet is a computer-controlled reality. The internet controls the world. We know that. That's a fact. That's no fantasy. You are not interpreting everything directly from nature. Nature is your natural connection. That's where you get everything right. The internet, which we think is the God and our nature now and our, and is correct, that is merely an interpreter. It's not direct contact with real reality. It's not the human being's natural connection. If you think it's a better connection to be connected that way, then you're in the right reality. My own view is that human beings are not that and are not meant to be connected to that, and that it is an incorrect connection. It is a negative connection for a human being. It is a connection that will take them away from being at their highest level and at their most potential, and to where they can survive beyond the Matrix. Not sure if any of this is making any sense. I'm sure it isn't, and I'm actually frustrating myself here and actually realising that it's because even I piece things together from the Matrix. But the reason that I do that, you'd say, well, that's a contradiction. How can I say that I piece a lot together from the Matrix when the Matrix is all a fantasy, delusion, negative, anti-life, anti-human reality? Well, that is because, like that song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, it's telling you the reality of what has happened to some human beings. It's telling you that the world is inverted, but also that human beings, because it says, I don't know how you were inverted. How you were converted and perverted, because, of course, perverted will only be your own perception too. That will be a matter of opinion. But I would think that that song is saying that from a human point of view, everything is inverted, everything has been converted, everything has been inverted and perverted. Put in everything in opposition, everything wrong for a human being. And most people are asleep. The love there that's sleeping, because love is at least a positive human thing. And love does raise the vibration, I would think, because it's a positive emotion. If it's a genuine thing, it would be a positive emotion, I would imagine. So therefore, it would open your eyes to, to a little bit more of what is the right reality for a human being. But also when humans are in, I've gone off the track. This is out of my league, I have to admit. I'm out of my league. I think that might have been a song or something or a saying, but yeah, I am actually. Because, to talk about, it's like to talk about something like love even. It's something that escapes most of us. And it sounds nice to talk about it, and half the time it's idol worship, half the time it's infatuation, half the time it is seduction, and all these things are of the Matrix. It's very hard to, because I don't think that most of us from the day we're born are really in just a normal, natural state of that. And if we don't give it and we don't receive it, and these two things operate the same way too. You don't give it, you don't receive it. You don't receive it, then you end up not giving it. At some point, even the most human being, if they don't receive much positive input or much love, whatever you like, in any way, they will end up being a giver of not be able to give that either. And they will, it's like the Matrix hurts, and so it hurts others, as I said in the other video. The Matrix likes to show its anger, its grievances, its losses, its way of looking at things. But the Matrix is all power. It may be a victim, but it wants to make the human being the victim. And that has been the goal or the reason behind the Matrix in many ways. So sometimes understanding the Matrix and the Matrix God and the whole set-up system that we live in, that they're a victim that has great power, if you want to look at it that way. and they take the power from the human being and make the human being the victim. I don't know if I put that very well. Oh dear, I have to close up. Good night then, because I think that I've confused myself and rambled on too much, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, this matrix thing, in some ways. And it is really a very see, the matrix is I think I'll fold up. Good night.